Hello and welcome everybody. This session is an introduction to pivot tables and charts. So what I'll do is I'll really just start by showing you what I plan to cover. I'm going to cover the best practice for setting up your source data, so where your data comes from and how to set it up, how to create a pivot table really quickly, how to make that pivot table look good by changing the fonts and colors, the sizes and the bold, italic and things like that. How to sort, filter and group your data so that you can manipulate the information. How we can present that data in your pivot table as a chart. How to display the data in different ways like percentages and differences, how to do calculations on your data in a pivot table, and how to set up slicers which are used for doing filtering. There may be one or two other areas that I go into depending on time. I'm using Excel 2016 for this training, but it doesn't matter whether you've got an older version like 2010 or 2013, or even to some degree 2007. A lot of what I cover will be relevant to all the versions of Excel, and if you're using a particular version and there is a feature that's not relevant to your version, I will point it out. I'm going to start with going through a few examples of pivot tables, really just so that people have an idea of what they are, because from past experience, people come on these training courses, they don't necessarily know what pivot tables are, or maybe they've seen a basic one that somebody else has created. So I'll give you some ideas as to what you can do with a pivot table. Ask any questions as we go through. As Isaac said, you can put your questions into the control panel at any time. I'll keep my eye on the control panel, so if any questions come in that are appropriate for what we're talking about, I can stop and I can answer your questions as we go along. All right, and with that, I'll come out of this presentation and go into Excel. And I'm going to start with a file called not Beatles Complete, Ice Cream Complete. Start with Ice Cream Complete. So what we have here is we have a lot of data. It is sales data. It's for a company who make and sell ice cream, different flavors, and they sell their ice cream to shops and restaurants across various states in the US. So here we have the 2015 sales figures, all the way up from the beginning of the year to the end of May. And we need to be able to report on that data. We need to be able to analyze that data. We need to be able to make sense of that data and probably use those reports and that analysis for taking the business forward. Now, I don't know if we've got anyone on this training session who does sell ice cream or anyone who's in sales. So what I want you to do, what you need to do is I need you to just take away from this training concepts and principles. To me, data is data is data. It doesn't matter whether you've got ice cream sales, it doesn't matter whether you've got pharmaceutical sales, it doesn't matter whether you've got a list of employees and their salaries, or whatever data you're working with, you should be able to relate what I'm showing you to your own data. Okay, so if I go to this by flavor tab at the bottom, I've created a pivot table which has got two columns of data. It's showing me the revenue per flavor, and each one of the revenue figures is shown as a percentage of this grand total here. That could have been done without a pivot table. It could have been done with formulas, but you know what? That would have taken you quite a long time to set up, maybe 10-15 minutes to actually create this little report here, doing it the hard way, doing it with formulas. With pivot tables, takes you about half a dozen clicks, takes you about 2 minutes. That's why, where I can, I would usually recommend creating pivot tables. It's a lot simpler. So here we have 4 pivot tables. The first one in columns A and B is showing you a breakdown of the revenue per state. The second one in columns D, E, F, and G is giving you information about the orders broken down by state. The third one is giving you total revenue per state like the first one, but the difference here is we have little plus signs, so we can actually open these sections up and see the breakdown not only by state, but actually by product as well.